Welcome to Larp Academia. Today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite weapon moves, and you guys might have some favorite weapon moves as well. In fact, if you have your favorite weapon moves, I would like you to post it in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see more of this amazing content. Now, what do I mean by your favorite weapon moves? Well, when you have a short sword, teleportation, you see that it is able to swing like, oh, this is a move, technically. But you could get more fancy. You could go, move. I would not recommend doing that move. That's terrible because you would probably hit someone's head. It leaves you open and it's horrible. High crossing is horrible most of the time, especially with single sword. But that's another weapon move. So, aside from obviously high cross, which is everyone's favorite, what are some of my favorite weapon moves? And I will give some for a few different weapon variations. And I'd love to hear what your favorite weapon moves are for those variations if you have any. Well, let's pretend that you are going flow. Now, while I don't have the second sword here, the second sword isn't that important. What you would do necessarily, and I learned this from a friend of mine, is fake high with your left and then just stab with the right. I learned this from a friend who I believe is now either a warlord or a sword knight. He's pretty great, but this is when we were still sparring buddies and with each other and everything until I moved to nowhere. Had a lot harder time sparring, but this move is very simple. It's where you fake high, making them go like, oh, I need to block that, and then you just stab. It's so beautiful to happen to a shield person too. Or to a shieldman, because they bring their shield over usually. For some, it's just natural to bring your shield over. And when you bring your shield over, then it's just stab. Stab in the pocket. It's so easy and so funny. So that's my favorite flow weapon move to use. Just fake high, stab. And you can do it really quick, where you can just do boom, like that. And instead of, oh, and then coming around, just fake high, stab. Simple. Simple. My next favorite thing to do with sword and dagger is to disarm someone. Now, this is a very cheeky move that is only able to be done against people who aren't very good, to put it simply. Because when you swing your sword, you don't always have it tight gripped and everything. But as you can see, it's a bit looser here. So when I swing my sword, I don't have the power here. When I swing my sword, I grab it here and then I have more power. But what if I have it here? Then it's still loose. So what usually very bad people do is they swing or they don't have a full grip. And with a sword and dagger, I'm not going to show you because I don't want people to replicate this. But what I normally do is I would have the short sword, this part, grab this part of the weapon, the dagger that also has the shaft here, and then I would use momentum to flip it out of a person's hand. Now, it's my most favorite move to do. It doesn't work most of the time, and it's not a practical thing. You'll find that most of these are impractical, aside from the first one where it was the flow attack where you just fake high and then stab. But the dagger just twirl to disarm is one of my favorite moves, especially because you bring the short sword. Well, actually, you would have the dagger underneath to block it to get their shaft so that they can't move it. Short sword, and then just pop it, and then you like flip it. It's hilarious to see. It doesn't work 90% of the time. It's not a good option. I would not recommend doing it. But my God, it's definitely my most favorite thing to do with sword and dagger. Now, one of my favorite other things to do is this. You don't need sword and board. You could have anything else, but you could go in fighting and haha! I let go a spellball from my hand. So, to show you, I cheekily had a spellball charge. This doesn't work for every Larp, but this is fun in Amp and a few other things too. Or even if you have a throwing weapon, you could have it in your hand, and then when you're fighting, just raise it. And as you can see, I had it in my shield hand right here. So I just had it there and then went. If you don't have a shield, you can literally fight with this thing out. And as you have it attached, even if you don't have another weapon or anything, it's better to have this in the other hand. But if you have two weapons and you have it like this, then this isn't a big deal to you. You could release it if you want. But by far what it does is that if you like huck it like that, they bring their guard up and then you can just move to the side and then whack them. Because they bring their guard up to this area, so it leaves this bit, so you could just... And as long as you move to the side and are moving out of the way for anyone to have a counterattack, it's a perfectly fine move. And it's really evil just going and having this ready, just bouncing here like, hey, I have a spell ball. Am I gonna throw it? Who knows? So it's one of my favorite things to do if applicable, especially if I'm playing a monster where I have natural weapons and I can just charge these while I have them in my sword hands. But that's Amp Card, and it works for a whole bunch of other ones, but spell balls, definitely one of my favorite things to do. Now, I have a few favorites with my sword and board. For sword and board, this takes a lot of practice, but if I stand up, you see that my shield covers this area, it covers my shoulder, this sword like has this area blocked, but there's a little pocket here. Now, how you usually hit that pocket is you can do it in a variation of ways, but with your sword, you go around and you make a V. So if I had another person here, you could see where it goes V up into this area. It goes here and then, well, it's hard to do on yourself, but you get the idea. It's where you just go and then V. And as soon as you make that V, it goes up and it goes in between where this shield and sword has usually and just hits this nice pocket area. And that's usually my favorite. There are a bunch of variations on ways to do it, but that is my first favorite thing to do with sword and board, if you can get it off, or my favorite to see since I really do kind of suck at it. But one of the other stupidest things that I've done ever since I had just started in playing LARPing, one thing that I found out is if you have catcher's guard, I do not, but if you have some type of like catcher's guard or something that helps you slide, you can go and slide down to the person and put your shield up and then, well, put it in camera, hit with the sword and then go around. So if you have your shield up like this, it's just boom, boom, and then you hit both person's legs and no one expects it. They're like, that was a stupid Nubius move. I can't even, Healer. This is pretty much how it works. This works for a lot of different ones. This could work for Bell. This could work for Amp Guard. This could work for any of the fighty wacky LARPs, of course, since we're talking about favorite weapon combinations. But it's just a stupid move, and it can be dangerous. I wouldn't say for you to try it because you need to be coordinated enough to stop. Otherwise, you'll just ram into the person when you slide. Or even if you go and you're fighting, then you could just drop and pop, pop. Like, you could do that. It's a stupid move. You chance that your sword is going to be caught on theirs, caught on their shield, caught on something else, not get that second attack on the leg because they might move it back. You need to know when to do it. It's actually quite technical, but it's so stupid dying that way. Having someone just duck down to get both legs. It's like, okay, it's dumb, and it can kill sword knights. It can kill a bunch of other people. But it's one of my favorite stupid moves that every once in a while I just bring out to laugh at. The last move that I have for you, I could keep going pretty much all day on a few funny ones, but the last move we should end with a practical one. We started with a practical, we can end with a practical, and that is with a pull. Now, with a pull, one of my favorite things to do, and I have to keep it on this side because it's easier to do with my left hand, is you go into the side, have them deflect it, and then twist and turn. Now, twisting and turning, it's kind of like that idea where you twist and turn and then you stab in, but it's a little hard to do. So you want to go in, pretend that you're swinging at this area, go out, and then twist your hips and then push in like that. At this point, they usually have, and this only works if they overextend a little bit. If you swing over here towards their body, let's say I'm them, I might overextend a little bit because it's a pull. So then by the time I come back and try to get into position, I can be stabbed straight in the center. So you go in, block, and then bam, into there. However, you don't want to jab up. I'm doing this for the camera. What you want to do is you want to jab and then twist down. I mean, yeah, you might hit someone's private area, but it's a kill, and you're not hitting someone in the face with a pull. So that's always a preference. So you go down, swing, and then bam, like that. It's a really cool move that works against anyone who doesn't have a shield. It can work against someone who has a shield because they're out of position so much, but usually with a shield they're just more comfortable in just blocking things, or even with their sword they're able to readjust and the shield's already there. So again, shields are pulse natural enemies, but it's a cool move. You want to make sure your pulse tip is really, really solid, so it's, well, not solid, but like in a manner that the core is not going to poke through so you don't injure someone. A solid tip doing that is mean, because it'll knock the wind out of someone. Like it's definitely gonna hurt, but it's one of those cool moves that I like, where you can come around and then manipulate where the person wanted to go. Again, with speed pulls, you can always like swing, come around, and then like that. That's a cool one, but there are some really cool moves that you can do with a pull, especially a speed pull. War pulls, again, we have videos on that where it talks about how if you have a war pull, it's not your skill usually, it's your teammate's skill that makes you deal damage. So those are just some cool weapon moves that I like. I would love to hear what you guys prefer as your own favorite weapon moves, whether they're practical or impractical, whether you should use them or not. Again, many of them that I told you are more that like, you really shouldn't do this, but so with that, I'd love to hear what are your favorite weapon moves with different weapon combinations. Until next time, keep Larp.